It started with a letter. Not a normal one. This one was taped crookedly to my front door, like some kind of public shaming notice. Red ink, bold font, and those words that make your heart drop into your stomach. Final notice. Foreclosure pending. For a few seconds, I couldn't move. My mind just froze. I'd lived in that house for over 30 years. Paid off every dime. Mowed the lawn myself. Helped build the damn community. And now, someone was telling me I was about to lose it, over $200 in unpaid HOA fees. $200. I actually laughed at first, the kind of laugh that's half disbelief and half panic. But the more I stared at that letter, the less funny it got. When you're older, your home isn't just a roof. It's memories. It's peace. It's safety. And the idea of losing that, especially for something so small, hits harder than most people realize. So I called the HOA office. Skyview Estates, this is Karen speaking, a voice said.
Karen.
Of course. I told her about the letter. Tried to keep my voice calm. She cut me off mid-sentence. Mr. Sanders, our records show multiple unpaid fees and penalties. We've sent repeated warnings. Unfortunately, this is now a legal matter. I blinked. Legal matter? For $200. Rules are rules, she said flatly. If you can't follow them, perhaps this isn't the right community for you. Her tone, it wasn't just rude. It was smug, condescending, like she enjoyed it. That night, I sat at my kitchen table surrounded by those letters, pages filled with legal jargon, warnings, threats. Every line chipped away at something inside me. For the first time in my life, I felt powerless. Days passed and things got worse. I started noticing whispers. Neighbors avoiding eye contact. A few even moved their trash cans farther from my side of the street, like foreclosure was contagious. Then came the knock on the door. A man in a suit handed me an envelope and said, "You've been served." Inside, an official foreclosure notice. The HOA had filed. I don't care how tough you are. That hits you like a brick to the chest. I remember sitting on my porch that evening, the sun setting behind the oaks, wondering how my life had boiled down to this. I'd worked in finance my entire career. Helped people keep their homes, not lose them. And here I was, being stripped of mine by some power-hungry HOA president. But then something shifted. Call it pride. Call it anger. Maybe both. I walked into my study, a room I hadn't used in years. Dust covered the bookshelves. The smell of old paper and time filled the air. I opened a drawer, pulled out a set of keys, and unlocked the heavy safe in the corner. Inside were binders. Thick, leather-bound, each marked with the same name, Skyview Estates Development Loans. As I opened the first one, the memories came rushing back. 20 years ago, when I was still president of the regional bank, we financed this entire subdivision. Every home loan, every property mortgage, all went through me. Page after page, I flipped through signatures. Different homeowners. Different dates. But at the bottom of every document, one signature repeated. Mine. That's when I realized I wasn't powerless at all. Karen thought she had me trapped under her little HOA rulebook. But the truth was she was living in a house I technically still owned the note for. I sat back, a slow smile creeping across my face for the first time in weeks. Over the next few days, I made calls. Contacted my old bank. Confirmed what I already knew. The subdivision's mortgages were still under my bank's servicing umbrella. The paperwork had never changed hands. Karen's home loan? Yep. Still tied to the same system. It was almost poetic. But I didn't want revenge, not yet. I wanted justice. I wanted this done the right way. So I gathered everything, loan documents, titles, letters from the HOA, and organized them neatly into a folder. Then I marked the calendar. Next HOA board meeting, Thursday, 7 p.m. That was the night everything would change. Thursday came. The meeting was held in the community hall, packed with neighbors and board members. Karen sat at the front, wearing her usual smug expression, clipboard in hand like she was running the White House. When my name came up on the agenda, she didn't even look up. "Mr. Sanders," she said, We're here to address your delinquency and foreclosure process. Do you have anything you wish to say before the board proceeds? The arrogance in her voice almost made me laugh. I stood, folder in hand, and walked to the front. Yes, I said calmly. I do. She rolled her eyes. Make it quick. I placed the folder on the table, opened it, and turned it toward the board. These, I said, are the original financing documents for Skyview Estates. Every home in this subdivision was financed through my bank 20 years ago, including yours, Karen. The room went silent. Karen blinked. Excuse me? You can't foreclose on me, I said quietly, because I own the bank that holds your mortgage. You could have heard a pin drop. The smug grin vanished from her face, replaced by something I'd never seen from her before: fear. Pure, undeniable fear. I didn't yell, didn't gloat. I just stood there and let the silence speak for itself. Neighbors looked at each other, whispering. Some even smiled. I picked up my folder and turned to leave. But before I did, I looked Karen dead in the eye and said, maybe next time you'll think twice before trying to take someone's home. Then I walked out, head high, heart pounding, finally breathing again. That night, for the first time in months, I slept like a baby. The morning after that HOA meeting, I woke up to silence. No threats taped to my door. No letters in the mailbox. No Karen marching around the neighborhood with her clipboard like she owned the world. For the first time in months, I could breathe. But I also knew it wasn't over yet. Not until real justice was done. Later that day, my phone rang. It was one of the board members, Tom, a decent guy who'd always kept his head down. Mr. Sanders, he said nervously, I just wanted to say what you did last night, that was something else. We didn't know. None of us did. I could hear the guilt in his voice. You were following her lead, I said quietly. I get it. He sighed. Yeah, well, after what you showed us, half the board wants her gone. There's an emergency vote tonight. I leaned back in my chair. Good, I said. It's time she answered for the mess she made. That evening, the community hall was packed again. But this time, the energy was different. No one smiled at Karen. No one rushed to greet her. She sat at the front alone, her confidence stripped bare. When the meeting started, Tom stood up. Effective immediately, he said, we're holding a vote to remove Karen Mitchell as HOA president. Karen shot up from her chair. You can't do that. But the crowd drowned her out. Homeowners, people she'd bullied, fined, humiliated, stood and spoke one after another. She charged me $500 for a mailbox color. She threatened to tow my car because I parked on the street for 10 minutes. She tried to evict a veteran for having an American flag that was too large. Every story hit her like a hammer. By the end, she wasn't shouting anymore. She just sat there, small, defeated, staring at her shoes. When the vote was over, the result was unanimous. Karen was out. But I wasn't there for revenge. I was there for restoration. I stood and said, look, we can't let one person's greed poison an entire community. We built this place together. Let's fix it together. People nodded. Some even clapped. Over the next few weeks, everything changed. The new HOA board reviewed all fines and violations issued under Karen's rule. Over a dozen were refunded. Thousands of dollars returned to homeowners. The foreclosure process against me? Canceled, erased, gone. And as for Karen, well, poetic justice has a way of finding people. A month later, I got a letter, this time not from the HOA, but from Karen's mortgage company. Or, rather, my bank. Turns out, she'd fallen behind on her own mortgage payments. The irony nearly made me laugh out loud. For a moment, I considered letting the process run its course. She'd try to take my home, after all. But then I paused. Because the truth is, real power isn't about revenge. It's about control and compassion. So I called the collections department and said, extend her grace. Give her time to catch up. She's learning her lesson. Weeks passed. Life slowly returned to normal. Neighbors stopped whispering. They started waving again. People came by to talk, not about HOA rules, but about gardening, barbecues, family. One afternoon, I was sitting on my porch when a car pulled up. Karen stepped out. No clipboard. No attitude. Just a woman who looked tired. She walked up slowly and said, "Mr. Sanders, I wanted to apologize." Her voice cracked. I went too far. I thought I was doing my job, but I was just trying to control everything. I lost sight of what matters. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I said, "Karen, power isn't the problem. It's how you use it. We all forget that sometimes." She nodded, eyes down. "Thank you," she whispered. And then she left. That night, I poured myself a drink and sat by the window watching the sun dip below the trees. The same view I'd nearly lost, over $200. It's strange how life works. Sometimes, the people who try to take everything from you end up teaching you what really matters: peace, patience, and the quiet kind of strength that comes from knowing who you are. I thought back to that letter, the one taped to my door, the symbol of everything I'd feared. And I smiled. Because that letter didn't mark the end of my story. It was the beginning of my reclamation. In the following months, I shared my experience publicly. Online, at homeowner meetings, even local news interviews. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of people reached out with their own HOA horror stories. People who had been silenced, bullied, cornered. And for the first time, I realized this wasn't just my fight, it was a movement. That's why I decided to tell it all through. HOA Karen tried to foreclose on my home over $200. She didn't know I owned the bank. Because this wasn't just a story about me. It was about every homeowner who's ever been pushed too far, about standing up when everyone else says stay quiet. And the best part? Every time someone watches it, they're reminded that justice, real justice, always finds a way home. Thank God I shared my story through HOA Karen tried to foreclose on my home over $200. She didn't know I owned the bank, because it gave me peace, gave others hope, and proved that no matter how powerful the bully seems, truth will always win in the end.